Okay, so I'm here in Worcester with Connor, and I'm going to ask Connor one simple question, and we're going to see what Connor says in response to this question. So Connor, the question is, do you believe in the scientific impossibility that nothing created everything?
I do, yes.
So you deny science?
I don't deny science. What I believe in the Big Bang. So when you said the ideology of everything coming from nothing,
I didn't say everything coming from nothing. Did nothing create everything?
Oh no, the Big Bang created everything. In my opinion, anyway, that's what I believe in.
Okay, so the Big Bang is the creation or the coming into being of the universe, of space, time and matter and energy. So what do you think caused the Big Bang to occur?
To be honest, I'm very uneducated on the topic, so I wouldn't be able to tell you what caused it. All I know is it's something to do with atoms colliding and creating this, the Big Bang, as we know it. But I couldn't really comment myself on what actually caused it because I don't know enough about the topic to be sort of saying that myself. If that makes sense.
I know quite a lot about the topic, so we can kind of talk through a few little things.
Yeah,
so the Big Bang is the creation of space and time, atoms, molecules, matter. So prior to the Big Bang, atoms didn't exist, molecules didn't exist, space and time didn't exist. So what do you think caused the Big Bang if it wasn't atoms and molecules?
Again, I'm not entirely sure. I know the direction you're going down in terms of what caused it. I'm assuming you're sort of going in the direction of the God may have caused the Big Bang. Is that the direction you're going towards?
Well, let's look at this kind of logically and rationally and scientifically. Can the first cause of space be space? Could the first cause of Connor be Connor?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I would sort of go down in the direction of was there not always that space? Was there not necessarily always that space? It didn't. I think we always go down the direction of something had to create it. Something happened in which it therefore followed on, and the Big Bang happened. But was necessarily the space not already there potentially?
No, space is actually expanding from a singular point called the singularity, the Big Bang, and so space, time and matter literally did not exist. Stephen Hawking will tell you this, the great physicist, the cosmologist will tell you space, time and matter came into being at a specific point roughly 13.8 billion years ago according to modern day science. Prior to that, the whole universe of space, time, matter did not exist. So when we come back to that question of could Connor create Connor, the obvious answer is no. So the first cause of space couldn't be space. The first cause of time couldn't be time, and the first cause of matter could not be matter. So the cause of space, time and matter must be spaceless, timeless, immaterial, must also be immensely powerful. It also has to transcend the universe, for it existed prior to the universe. So what do you think the cause of the universe could potentially be, scientifically?
Again, unfortunately, I don't really have an answer for that. Again, I think I assume the direction you're going down towards is that God created this, God produced this, if it was God's doing. And I would ask what sort of proof there is behind that, because like I said, I'm not necessarily shutting any ideas down, and I'm not discarding any ideology that someone may have. But what I'm saying is, I can't prove the Big Bang happened because I'm not a scientist. Mm-hmm. How would you prove that it was God's doing and not anything else?
Sure. So the first cause of space has to be spaceless or omnipresent. Yep. The first cause of time must be timeless or eternal. The first cause of matter must be immaterial or mind, or what we'd call spirit. It must also be immensely powerful to bring the universe into being. It has to transcend the universe, for it existed prior to the universe, to bring the universe into being. And it must also have a will to choose to create the universe 13.8 billion years ago. Otherwise, the universe itself would be eternal, and it would have been here forever. The fact it had a beginning at the Big Bang shows that there is a transcendent personal cause prior to the universe. And as you mentioned, I didn't bring up the word God, you brought up the word God several times, because I think that instinctively, and when we look at the logical evidence of cause and effect, we understand that right at the beginning of everything, there has to be some type of eternal cause, an uncaused cause. And you brought up the word God. Why did you bring up the word God?
It's mainly because after speaking to your colleague, I got the general gist of what this was going to be around. So I already had that in the back of my mind. Yeah. So that was definitely the sort of subconscious thinking about it already in the back of my head before doing this interview. But at the same time, it's in terms of the creation of everything that we know. It's always the sort of necessarily, science and religion, and sometimes both put together. So,
Yeah.
it always has to be mentioned in the topic, I think, whether you believe in it or not.
Well, we're an organisation that actually does put science and religion together, and that's kind of that's our thrust. We look at science, and I think 100 years ago, I think you could be forgiven for saying that perhaps science and religion are separated.
Yeah.
But with the modern advances in science, with genetics, the fine-tuning of the laws of nature, when we look at these things, I think it very, very clearly demonstrates intelligence. We've got three choices. Either the universe had to be this way, and there's no reason for the universe to be this way. It could have been any number of ways. Or we just got really, 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 really lucky.
Yeah.
Or it was designed that way. And I think the most common sense approach to the fine-tuning of the laws of nature, for instance, DNA is the most complicated language in the known universe, according to Bill Gates. He said it's far more complicated than any computer program that we've designed. Have you ever seen a language create itself?
No, I haven't.
So DNA, would you say that's the first language that created and authored itself?
Yeah, I guess it would. But I think the DNA as we know it today is also come from years and years and years of evolution. It wasn't, I mean, in your opinion, how old do you think the Earth is? Because obviously this is another sort of, because I mean, thousands, millions of years ago, no matter what you believe in, the DNA that we have today wouldn't have been the same as it was many, many years ago. It's sort of, it develops, and I'm not disagreeing in the fact that it did make itself, because it did. But at the same time, it's changed and it's developed and it's grown and it's evolved over many, many years.
Okay. So, concerning the age of the universe, I'm happy for it to be 13 billion years, the Earth 4.5 billion years. That's what our current scientific understanding states. As soon as life is possible on planet Earth, it appears with genetic coding in it.
Yeah.
The question I want to ask you, of course, is how did the very first cell get DNA for it to replicate and to start life?
I feel like you could almost argue that everything, so all life, whether it be human life or an animal or plants or whatever, all have a certain DNA within them. I feel like the coding that comes with it that we keep on referring to isn't necessarily coding that, obviously it was already within it, but it's the coding that humans have discovered and make it make sense for the humans. So to make it make sense for ourselves, we put it into this sort of coding, if that makes sense. Obviously the coding was already, we haven't made anything up.
The coding is there.
The coding is there. But when you do relate it back to this sort of genetic coding, to sort of in comparison to, for example, computer coding, I feel like that's what the humans, when doing the research and into these sorts of topics, that's what we've made to make it make sense to us. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and we kind of infer from that design because it looks designed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I were to give you a Haynes manual of how a Ford Fiesta is put together. Is that what you drive? Right. Oh, wow. Okay. So a Haynes manual for that. If I left that manual full of information on a table, would it create a Ford Fiesta?
No, not without someone physically doing it themselves.
Okay. So you need the instructions and you need something to build that Ford Fiesta. Would you agree?
Yeah. No, I would agree with that.
So DNA is the instructions for building life, but DNA can't create life. So what do you think worked upon the DNA to create life?
Are we talking? At what point in time are we talking now? Are we then talking about
straight off the bat?
Straight off the bat. Again, that's where I would put the Big Bang into theory. That's that DNA, that coding, as we keep calling it, was always sort of ready to be there. The Big Bang, when it happened, was just sort of what created it all. And like you said, it's that very, very, very slim, lucky chance, but. That's what happened, in my opinion, anyway.
Okay, well, thank you so much today for your time. I really appreciate your questions.
Thank you very much.
God bless.
Cheers.
All right.